Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about a company that is participating in one of the fastest growing trends around the world that is related to weight loss and diabetes management. ये कंपनी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कंपनी है एंड इन फैक्ट दिस कंपनी इज स्ट्रक्चरली चेंजिंग इटसेल्फ फ्रॉम अ ट्रेडिशनल प्लेयर टू अ player who will play an integral part into GLP-1 system as well as in the future into semiconductors and several other important industries. So without further ado, let's begin. So first of all, before we start off with analyzing deeply about the company, let's have a quick discussion on what this opportunity of GLP-1 is, right? So over to you, Sudipta. We can begin on that.
So GLP-1 is basically it's a hormone which is released from pancreas and it helps to regulate the insulin levels in our body.
Okay.
And insulin helps in regulating the blood sugar levels, right? So what happens is when someone has diabetes, this insulin production is disrupted in our body, which leads to increasing blood sugar levels.
Right.
And this GLP-1 drug, it actually mimics the insulin hormone, and therefore it helps in regulating the blood sugar level in our body, as well as it also helps in maintaining our weight. So as we know that this diabetes and obesity are becoming endemics, right? Global endemics. Currently around 590 million people across the world are suffering from diabetes. And that number is supposed to grow up to 853 million by 2050. And the number one cause of diabetes is obesity. And obesity numbers are also going to grow up pretty high. Like 1.9 billion adults are going to suffer from obesity by 2035. So this is where the importance of GLP-1 drugs come into picture.
So Sudipta, on this, because GLP is such an important thing, we also recently, I believe last year, we had breakthroughs from Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, where they launched their semaglutide, which is their patented GLP-1 formula, and I think that received a lot of great response in the US, where a lot of people were using GLP-1, and it led to them losing weight, and in fact, a lot of benefits for the health, right? So अभी क्या हो रहा है ना, अभी what is happening is that a lot of so if you guys remember also, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly had launched their products in India. So a lot of celebrities in India were also using GLP-1s, and unme we had noticed that there was a drastic improvement in health, weight reduction. Abhi, why is this an important time to study about this particular trend is because ये जो time है मार्च के end में, ये Novo Nordisk और Eli Lilly का patent is about to expire, right? And when the patent is about to expire, a lot of generic companies, a lot of Indian MNCs जो अपने pharma MNCs हैं and all, they will now come and create generic products, right? ये GLP-1 के ड्रग के formulation को use करके a lot of companies in India are going to do so, and that is why at this point of time studying this makes a lot of sense. Now this is where our particular company जो आज हम लोग discuss करने वाले हैं, that company comes into the picture. ये company क्या करता है? ये company ये पेन इस ड्रग तो हम लोग ऐसे ही बॉडी में डाल नहीं सकते. वी हैव टू यूज पेन्स, राइट? इंजेक्टेबल पेन्स. तो ये पर्टिकुलर कंपनी दोस इंजेक्टेबल मेडिकल डिवाइसेस और पेन्स बनाते हैं.
So as you mentioned, Rohit, Shaily currently manufactures the GLP-1 delivery pen injections, right?
Right.
So apart from this, what are the other areas that Shaily works in, and how is it growing, and what are the major clients for Shaily in those areas?
Right. So before we deep dive into GLP-1, let's just take an overview, right, of what Shaily Engineering currently does. For that, I'll just screen share and take you to my screen. So see, right now Shaily has basically three verticals. If you can see my screen, the first is the healthcare division, right? The healthcare division में वो लोग क्या करते हैं? वो लोग basically मैन्युफैक्चर करता है ड्रग डिलीवरी सिस्टम्स, फार्मास्यूटिकल पैकेजिंग करते हैं, डायग्नोस्टिक डिवाइसेस बनाते हैं, सर्जिकल कंज्यूमेबल्स बनाते हैं. तो इसमें उनका जो मेजॉरिटी पार्ट है ना ऑफ द बिजनेस, दैट इज देयर आईपी लेड इंजेक्शन प्लेटफॉर्म दैट इज डिजाइन फॉर GLP-1, जो हम लोग ने डिस्कस किया. एंड दे ऑल्सो मेक इंसुलिन डिलीवरी प्रोडक्ट्स, ह्यूमन ग्रोथ हार्मोन डिलीवरी प्रोडक्ट्स, पैराथायराइड हार्मोन डिलीवरी प्रोडक्ट्स. ये सारे प्रोडक्ट्स को डिलीवर करने के लिए दे हैव अ लॉट ऑफ इंजेक्टर्स. तो क्या क्या है उनका मेन इंजेक्टर्स? दे हैव शाइली ट्रिस्टन ऑटो इंजेक्टर. ये बेसिकली यूज फॉर ड्यूलाग्यूटाइड, एड्जेपेटाइड, डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ ड्रग्स के इंजेक्शन. Then they have Shaily Toby auto injector, ठीक है? This is also a product for semaglutide. Then they have the Shaily pen Neo, right? ये एक spring driven pen injector है for GLP-1 delivery. Then they have the Shaily pen Protean and Maxim. These are also designed for insulin and other peptide delivery. Recently इन लोगों ने एक type of pen launch किया, that is their Axiom and Axiom Max. This is a very specific type of pen जिसके बारे में we'll discuss further in the later part of the video. And इसको छोड़ के they are also venturing into areas जहाँ पे they will basically create complex systems like wearable patch pumps and a specific type of ऑन बॉडी इंजेक्टर जिसको वो लोग लीरा बोल रहे हैं. की क्लाइंट्स उनका ये पर्टिकुलर डिवीजन में राइट नाउ इज सनोफी, सन फार्मा, डॉक्टर रेड्डीज, जाइडस. तो द मोस्ट ऑफ द टॉप Indian pharmaceutical companies are in their client list, which shows that their products have a lot of product market fit. So ये particular segment is their fastest growing segment, ठीक है. But right now revenue contribution from this segment is not their highest. Right now उनका जो major revenue contribution होता है वो उनका consumer division business से आता है. And in that particular business they focus on durable aesthetic plastic components, ठीक है. And they basically serve it to home furnishing companies, FMCG companies और electronics companies में LED lighting भी बनाते हैं. Home furnishing में क्या करते हैं आप देख लो, kitchenware, integrated cooking components, dining solutions, ये सारे चीज़ they make. Then in FMCG packaging वो लोग क्या करते हैं, they make value added packaging components. So एकदम basic packaging नहीं, थोड़ा value added packaging components for the cosmetics and the personal care products, ठीक है. Like razor handles हो गया is something which they make. Shaily utilizes advanced secondary operations here, including vacuum metallizing, hot stamping, ultrasonic welding, and high-speed rotary pad printing, which is telling me something about the company की एकदम basic line items of packaging नहीं बनाते, थोड़ा value added बना के उनका margins भी high होता है and थोड़ा amount of technicality आ जाता है, which maybe many other players aren't able to replicate. Then LED lighting में they're also there. Some of their major clients, in fact, their most major client in the consumer division is IKEA. And they also have partnerships with Procter and Gamble, Unilever, etc. Then they have the third division, ठीक है. The third division is the industrial division. Industrial division यहाँ पे लोग क्या करते हैं, ये थोड़ा high precision engineering plastics बनाते हैं, ठीक है. That is, and इसमें वो what they do, they make high precision engineering plastics and they convert traditional metal parts to high strength polymers. And this is specifically used in automotive components. फिर तुम्हारा इंजीनियरिंग, फिर तुम्हारा अप्लायंसेस में वेरी हैव रोबोटिक प्लास्टिक सॉल्यूशंस. तो ये सारा थोड़ा टेक्निकली इंजीनियर्ड प्रोडक्ट्स है जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्री में बहुत ज़्यादा यूज होता है. एंड इसमें देयर मेजर क्लाइंट्स आर जनरल इलेक्ट्रिक, हायर, यू हैव शेफलर, फिनिक्स मर्चेंट एंड वॉट एवर एंड गोइंग ऑन. इमर्जिंग डिवीजन जिसके बारे में आगे ऑब्वियसली विल टॉक अबाउट इज दैट दे आर गोइंग टू एंटर इनटू कंज्यूमर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड सेमीकंडक्टर्स. तो ऑन एन ओवरऑल लेवल राइट नाउ Shaily is basically into industrial division, they're into a consumer packaging division, and obviously they have their healthcare division जहाँ पे वो लोग basic amount of GLP-1s के injectors बनाते हैं, and they also make injectors for insulin and thyroid hormones and growth hormones. तो यही था mostly about on what Shaily manufactures. So since we've now done an overview on what Shaily Engineering currently does, what are their divisions on, so Ipta, can you like give an overview on what they're specifically doing for GLP-1, since this is such a massive segment, and any type of advantages that the company has?
Sure. So, with respect to GLP-1, as we already discussed, right, that they are manufacturing high precision pen injections and auto injectors.
Right.
And one thing to note here is, why do we even need this pen injections and auto injectors in the first place? Because we can also have oral drugs, right?
Right.
But what happens in case of GLP-1 is the bioavailability of GLP-1 in the oral form is significantly lower than that through injections.
Yeah.
So if we go with the numbers, right, the API dose required for oral prescriptions, oral drugs, are 14 mg per dose.
Okay.
But whereas in the injectable version, it only requires 2.4 mg per week. So that is where this importance of Shaily manufacturing these injectors comes into place.
So basically you're telling me that on a weekly level, if I take the injection, that is only 2.4 mg, but if I have to take the oral dose every day, I will have to kind of take 14 mg, which means a lot of API is entering my body, and that can also lead to a lot of health repercussions in the future. So that makes that kind of tells me that the pen market is probably going to get the maximum share of the get, but the oral market might also exist for certain users. And in fact, this is something I think the management had also mentioned in their con call. So yeah, so continue.
Right now, what Shaily is doing is they are onboarding the majority of the generic pharmaceutical companies for GLP-1s, and specifically for their drug semaglutide.
Okay.
right? Which we know as Ozempic. Like all of us know the word Ozempic, right? And the company has around 23 to 24 different partners just for their GLP-1 programs. And apart from that, they are not just making standard pens, they are making very high precision innovative solutions as well in the pen space. And one key innovation that they have done in the space is called the Axiom Max, which they are going to manufacture. And the main differentiator or the moat of this particular product is that it solves one of the major patient pain points with respect to injections, which is basically it requires absolutely no priming. So priming is required for injections before they are pushed into your system. But for this particular Axiom Max, it will be an auto injector with a particular fixed dose, so no priming will be required. And not just that, they have a very diverse portfolio in this injection space. Like they have other devices like Toby, which is a two-step auto injector, and the Neo, which you already talked about, a spring driven pen available in the fixed and variable doses.
And Harmony also.
Exactly, Harmony also as well. And they are rapidly scaling up their pen injector capacity. So they are expanding from 40 million to 80 million units in India, and they have also decided to incorporate a Abu Dhabi facility, which will increase their production capacity to 150 million overall for the pen injection. So they are drilling down on this particular GLP-1 growing field, and then they are trying to maximize their revenues with respect to this sector as well. Now, you also asked about what are the competitive advantage of Shaily, right? So, one is Shaily believes in manufacturing very complex and high precision components, not just simple generic devices, right? And they have end-to-end integrated capabilities as well. So they go from concept creation to patent landscaping to detailed engineering, injection molding, and they also help
the value chain.
Exactly, they are present across the entire value chain. And we also talked about that they are innovating day on day in the healthcare space. They have a lot of IP led innovation systems with them, and they are highly compliant with a lot of global certifications such as ISO 13485 and MDSAP. And they have strong relationship with a lot of companies. You mentioned a lot of clients, and a lot of them have been their clients for multiple years, not just a single year or two, right? And they are keeping on onboarding new clients as well, and they have a very strong global footprint as well. So these are combining all of these are the competitive advantages that they have currently. So Rohit, now that we have talked about the GLP-1 segment of Shaily, right? You also mentioned that they are moving into the consumer electronics and the semiconductor business.
Right.
So can you give some more insights on those two businesses as well?
Sure, Sudipta. So see, Shaily is not just focusing on their GLP-1 business. They want to diversify their revenue and focus on other fast-growing sectors like consumer electronics and semiconductors. So in consumer electronics, see what they're trying to do is that they want to enter into high complexity, high precision small part making, where they will combine metal and plastic components and create a differentiated product from the other competitors. And they are saying that this will help them unlock some margin expansion also, because these products will have higher margin. And what gives them such confidence that they will be able to do so is because they have seen that in China, where there's a lot of EMS manufacturing companies, right? Like how we have in India, we have Keynes, we have all of these companies that are into EMS, Dixon. That some of the suppliers to these EMS manufacturing companies who have made a little bit of complex or high precision parts, they have been able to rapidly grow their revenue from 300 to up to 300 to 600 million annually in a space of 3 to 5 years, which gives them Shaily the visibility that such a model could be replicable in India, and this particular business segment could itself be like a much larger business segment in the future for the company. And this also helps them separate themselves from the China plus one strategy, where now a lot of the global makers of the products are, they can now move their supply chains away from China and also focus on India. And I've also spoken about the margin things, and because this will be a a little bit of a complicated product, a little bit of a product which has high precision, this will lead to some margin expansion for the company, because they will be obviously able to charge a premium. And timeline for the launch, So the company is saying that they are right now in a rigorous qualification cycle. They are nearing the end of this cycle, and they are expecting to wrap this up by late February or early March of this particular year 2026, and the commercial supplies are anticipated to kind of begin in Q4 of FY26 or early in FY27, with the full segment coming into live in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, regarding semiconductor, right? So semiconductor business में they are also thinking about making semiconductor casing. तो ये केसिंग क्या होता है, सिंपल भाषा में समझा देता हूँ. सो इन ढोलेरा, राइट, ढोलेरा गुजरात, Tata Semiconductor manufacturing company setting up a fabrication unit. There are 3 other fabrication units also जो गुजरात में सेट हो रहा है. एंड ये टाटा वाला जो यूनिट है ना, इस फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट में चिप्स बनाएंगे, सेमीकंडक्टर्स के चिप्स विल बी मेड. नाउ इंडिया आज तक इंडिया हैड टू इंपोर्ट सेमीकंडक्टर चिप्स बिकॉज वी डिड नॉट हैव हाई प्रेसिशन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेसिटी और अ प्लांट इन इंडिया जो चिप्स लोकली बना सकता है. So we had to import the chips, then we would like basically do a little bit of maybe processing and assembly, and that would be our value chain. But now what, with the government support and the PLI initiatives, chip डिजाइन एंड चिप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग भी इंडिया में आ रहा है. एंड वो ये पर्टिकुलर ढोलेरा प्लांट एंड जो 4 फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट्स में बनेंगे. चिप में क्या होता है, यू बेसिकली हैव वेरी क्लीन इन्वायरमेंट जहाँ पे आप वो पर्टिकुलर चिप्स को बहुत ही critically you manufacture them, and the chips are kind of like a little bit of sensitive products. तो उसको आप directly transport और move नहीं कर सकते. उसके लिए you need to cover the chips with a casing to protect themselves. वो casing is the product that Shaily is trying to kind of make for these fabrication units, and Shaily has said that हम ना right now export के बारे में सोच ही नहीं रहे, that we will make these casings and sell it to outside markets. The reason behind Shaily is that ये एक्सपोर्ट करने के टाइम में मेरा जो एक्सपोर्ट कॉस्ट होगा, कॉस्ट ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड लॉजिस्टिक्स, दैट विल बी ह्यूज एंड वी वोंट बी एबल टू चार्ज मच ऑफ अ मार्जिन ओवर देयर. एंड राइट नाउ enough and more demand is there in that will come from these 4 fabrication units, and that is what over the next 12-18 months the company wants to kind of develop and partner with these fabrication units and scale up this particular casing business that they are trying to do. सो यही था, यही मैनेजमेंट ने यही बोला था कि राइट नाउ तो फैब्रिकेशन यूनिट सेट ही हो रहे हैं. बाय द एंड ऑफ FY27, बाय द स्टार्ट ऑफ FY28 दे विल नाउ बेसिकली स्टार्ट ऑफ विद द फर्स्ट बैच ऑफ दिस केसिंग बिजनेस. तो ये दो इंटरेस्टिंग बिजनेस में भी अलॉन्ग विद GLP-1 ऑब्वियसली Shaily is entering, which makes Shaily a very good bet on future green energy, future niche businesses, future healthcare businesses in the country. So Sudipta, we spoke about all of the 3 segments and what are the future segments Shaily घुस रहा है. तो आप एक चीज बताओ right now कि what is the current order book this particular company has, because order book will determine future इनका revenue visibility कैसा है, right? So anything on that?
Sure, right. So their order books, Rohit, look quite promising, right? And what they have done is we mentioned that they have 40 million pen injection capability in India currently, and they are increasing it to 80 million pens.
Right.
And it is fully backed by commercial contracts. The Indian capacity is fully backed by commercial contracts, and also they have take or pay contracts. So what that means is basically even if their end customers, which are these pharma companies, they are not able to sell their drugs, suppose through their injections, but even then Shaily will get the revenue. They will have to pay Shaily.
Okay.
Right? And apart from that, as we discussed that they are going to set up their Abu Dhabi facility, and that won't be even operational until Q4 of FY28, but currently only in the QI of FY27 only, they are already having 50 to 60% of that capacity order book, right? 50 or 60% of that capacity already has confirmed orders.
Right.
And apart from that, in FY25, they have signed 8 new contracts with global pharma companies, especially for this pen and auto injections. And they have a massive R&D pipeline in the UK, and which is their UK subsidiary, which serves as a dedicated design and R&D hub for new medical devices. And they currently have 7 new projects in its pipeline.
Okay.
And coming to the other segments apart from the healthcare segment, so in the industrial segment, the management has highlighted that 12% year-on-year growth in this segment, and that is supported by a robust order book.
Okay.
And in the consumer segment, right, they have secured new product mandates from an existing major home furnishing client, and their FMCG packing division has won new business for two products from a marquee client, and two more currently under development. So this is how their current order books looks like, which is quite promising.
So which means that in terms of order book visibility, the company is doing well because their main fastest growing segment right now, which is the healthcare segment, that itself is almost first of all, in the Indian context, it is doubling their capacity, and on an overall on an overall context, if we include Abu Dhabi by Q4 FY28, the capacity could be actually 4 times, 4x of what it is today, right? And other than that, as you mentioned, they have a lot of clients that they keep on winning in the for the GLP injector that they're making, which means that their product has a good market fit, and which means that further down the line, for they can almost also onboard a lot of other marquee clients. And the best thing जो मेरे को इस पर के लगा is that they have take or pay contracts. इसका मतलब कि anything goes wrong, at least Shaily will receive the revenue, and this gives us a stability in terms of how to project their project their revenues. And सबसे best thing was like Abu Dhabi facility में जैसे आपने बोला कि 50 to 60% of the entire order backlog is backed with contracts, and they have like official contracts starting Q1 FY27. तो मतलब by the time we reach Q4 FY28, तो almost the entire thing should be backed by order contracts. So that is great. Industrial segment में थोड़ा धीमा growth लग रहा है at around 12% YOY. But this is not the segment I think that they're focusing a lot also. Focusing on scaling up healthcare, the consumer electronics, and the consumer segment on an overall level. So great. They're also getting a new orders from a lot of FMCG packaging and a lot of home furnishing business, which I think over the period of time will also scale up at a decent pace, but not as fast as the healthcare segment, which is the exciting part for Shaily.
So, Rohit, now that we have talked about the order book values already, so can you talk about how they have performed in their Q3 of FY26? Any insights that you'd want to highlight? And also, can you talk about the revenue projections for that their management must have highlighted?
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the company's performance first before we go into the management guidance. So as of Q3 FY26, the company's revenue stood at 251 crores, right? That was a rise of around 27% YOY. However, the problem that happened was that the EBITDA margin for the company dropped sequentially by around 5.3 basis points. By around 5.3% from 31 to 26.5%. And the consumer segment, जो उनका सबसे largest segment है, that grew by 13%. And इसके वजह से after the result came out, the stock was also punished a lot. And इसके पीछे the management has given a little bit of explanation. So they said that their margin was missed because ये जो EU segment है ना, UK, दुबई, इन सारे में जो उनका consumer business है, उनमें there was a lot of degrowth because वहाँ पे demand का problem था, ठीक है. And secondly, in this last particular ये जो quarter के बारे में we are discussing, in this particular quarter, there was a large amount of exhibition cost में पैसा गया था because they participated in a lot of exhibitions like CPHI, PDA, PODD, and this is like the company said a one-time expense. This was just to showcase their expertise and their products in the GLP-1 space so that इस exhibition से they could onboard some of the new clients. And also ये जो उनका UK दुबई में contracts हुआ था ना, इसमें deferred payment हो रहा था. So cost they had booked in this particular quarter, but revenue नहीं आया था. Revenue will be booked in Q4, so the management says that the EBITDA margin will again return to the normal levels around 30-32% in the next quarter. Secondly, जो important point था कि देखो, the important point over here is that the company said that in the particular quarter उनका कैपेसिटी एक्सपेंशन का जो टाइमलाइन मिस हो गया था, ठीक है. जो द न्यू 25 मिलियन पेन लाइन दैट अराइव्ड इन दिसंबर फेस सेवर क्वालिफिकेशन डिलेस ड्यू टू हाई रिजेक्शन रेट्स एट हाई स्पीड्स, ठीक है. और वो जो पहले it should have been scaled up by now, they are saying that this will be scaled up in April of FY this means in Q1 of FY27 by the time April ends. So ये क्यों हुआ था? Why did this happen? Why was there so much of a problem in qualification and delays? Is because वो लोग बोल रहे हैं ना, जब भी आप ये स्पेसिफिकली प्रोडक्ट्स बनाते हो फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मशीन्स लाइक डिजिटल एंड मेडिकल डिवाइसेस, उस टाइम पे बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट चेक्स होता है ऑन ऑल ऑफ दिस डिवाइसेस. एंड ये जो लाइन है ना, जहाँ पे ये चेक होता है, फैक्ट्री फ्लोर पे एक लाइन बैठता है, वहाँ पे देयर इज क्लोज टू लाइक 25-30 मूविंग पार्ट्स. and each and every part moves at a very fast 80 ppm per minute. तो at that point of time उसको manage करने के लिए उस to maintain that the product's quality is intact बहुत सारे checks होते हैं. And Shaily is saying that they are doing these checks very rigorously, and the rejection rates of when they're doing these checks is around 30%, and they have to lower it down. वो लोग ये भी बोल रहे हैं कि रिजेक्शन रेट हम लोग 30% रख रहे हैं जस्ट टू बी ऑन द सेफर साइड, एंड दैट इज वाई डूइंग अ लॉट ऑफ दिस चेक्स इज टेकिंग अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ द टाइम. ठीक है. इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग और एक भी था फ्रॉम द Q4 रिजल्ट. दे सेड दैट इन द कैनेडियन मार्केट ना जो उनका GLP-1 का जो शेयर है दैट हैज रीजन टू 65 to 75%, which means that majority of the players who are filing their GLP-1 drugs in the Canadian market, over there Shaily is the major supplier for their pens. Other than that, they also said that they had a massive around 300-350 crore का capex to establish the new 75 million plant in the Abu Dhabi, जो Q4 FY28 पे ऑपरेट होगा. सो दिस वाज मोर अराउंड कि उनका Q3 रिजल्ट्स क्यों था. मेजर टॉकिंग पॉइंट वाज उनका मार्जिन क्यों कंप्रेस हुआ और उनका कंज्यूमर डिवीजन में क्या प्रॉब्लम था विच लेड टू द डीग्रोथ, जो मैंने आप लोगों सबको समझा दिया. नाउ व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू थिंक अबाउट कि इनसाइट्स क्या लेना है एंड मैनेजमेंट ने क्या गाइडेंस दिया है. तो मैनेजमेंट का गाइडेंस और इनसाइट से हमें ये पता चलता है जो उनका हेल्थ केयर डिवीजन है ना दैट विल कीप ऑन ग्रोइंग एट अराउंड 30-35% एवरी ईयर फॉर द नेक्स्ट 3 to 5 years, बिकॉज इतना सारा डिमांड उन लोगों के पास आ रहा है. And the important thing to note over here is that right now itself the healthcare division has grown from a 30% contribution to the revenue to around a 40-45% contribution to revenue, and over the next 3 to 5 years ये देखा जाएगा, you will notice that it eventually becomes the largest revenue contributing segment for the company, followed by their consumer division. उनका जो एक industrial division है ना जहाँ पे वो थोड़ा complex precision metal parts बनाता है manufacturing industry के लिए, वहाँ पे ऑल्सो ऑन अ स्मॉलर बेस द ग्रोथ इज वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग. इट्स अराउंड 87% ईयर ऑन ईयर. तो वहाँ पे ऑल्सो दे आर गेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ ट्रैक्शन. एंड इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट इज ये देखा जाएगा कि विद टाइम इन द फ्यूचर शैलीज द थीसिस बिहाइंड शैली विल बी द ग्रोथ इन देयर इंडस्ट्रियल डिविजन एंड द मेजॉरिटी ग्रोथ इन देयर हेल्थ केयर डिविजन. तो ये वॉज एन इनसाइट दैट द मैनेजमेंट हाईलाइटेड. नाउ एज यू कैन सी Q3 FY26 तक हेल्थ केयर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन जैसे बोला था 42% ऑफ द टोटल रेवेन्यू हो गया, राइट. तो अगर आप ये लोग को प्रोजेक्ट करोगे ऑन ब्लेंडेड लेवल आप इसको ट्रैक करोगे तो आप लोग देखोगे दैट द कंपनी विल बी एबल टू ग्रो दैट टॉप लाइन टू द रेवेन्यू एट अराउंड 25-30% एनुअली ओवर द next few years, and their EBITDA margin will actually keep on scaling because Abu Dhabi expansion भी आ रहा है, right. वो लोग अगर they are able to grow their consumer electronics business with their metal and their plastic molded components जो हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था, उससे भी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ सकता है. तो मार्जिन्स कैन ऑल्सो राइज. ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज हम लोग का कंज्यूमर सेगमेंट है, राइट. जहाँ से वेयर दे मेक द किचन वेयर प्रोडक्ट्स, वेयर दे डू फॉर FMCG पैकेजिंग प्रोडक्ट्स, वहाँ पे अभी स्लो डाउन है. बट इफ द रेगुलेटरी थिंग्स इंप्रूव, इफ द जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस रिमूव, तो उधर से डिमांड आएगा ना, तो वो पर्टिकुलर सेगमेंट कैन ऑल्सो ग्रो एट 8-10% के अगर फॉर द नेक्स्ट 3 to 5 years, विच गिव्स देम अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ स्टेबिलिटी टू द बिजनेस ऑल्सो. जो ये रिसेंटली केयर ने इनको A+ रेटिंग दिया था based on their long-term bank facilities, which means that in terms of liquidity, in terms of how the company is performing on their financials, that is also in safe hands. And the company has said that eventually Shaily over a period of time will eventually reach the 1,500 crore revenue mark, ठीक है, sorry, operating income mark with a 22% operating margin. That is according to Care. So this was more around कि हमें क्या insights देना चाहिए on Shaily and what the management has kind of guided for in the future.
Thanks, Rohit. So that was really very insightful. So can you now talk about their financials and their balance sheet and give some insights into their stock price chart as well?
Yeah, Suripta. So we'll quickly go to Screener and check out their company profile. So first thing that gives me that tells me about Shaily is that the most important thing over here is that they have a good amount of CFO to EBITDA conversion, right? So they are not in that type of company where a lot of their money is stuck in receivables and inventory. इसका मतलब that they have some sort of a negotiating power in the table. That is a good thing. Secondly, इनका ROC और ROE level 17%, 15.3% improving, not the very best right now, but ये particular चीज़ improve क्यों हो सकता है? Because they're entering into very interesting segments जहाँ पे revenue growth बहुत जल्दी से आ सकता है, मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन हो सकता है, और जब मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन होएगा at that point of time ROC and ROE generally will generally go up. सेकेंडली कंपनी का सबसे बेस्ट थिंग इज दैट द कंपनी डजंट हैव अ लॉट ऑफ डेट टू इक्विटी लेवल पे कंपनी इज अराउंड 0.34, which means that majority of there's no huge amount of long term borrowings or short term borrowings that can increase their interest cost a lot and put the pressure on their on their profit after tax, profit before tax. So बैलेंस शीट भी ज़्यादा ओवर लेवरेज नहीं है, ये भी मुझे बहुत बढ़िया लगता है अबाउट शैली. कंपनी में प्रोमोटर्स का कोई प्लेजिंग नहीं है, दैट इज अनदर गुड थिंग. नेक्स्ट आप लोगों को मैं दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि हाउ द ईपीएस ऑफ शैली हैज ग्रोन. यू सी द एक्सपोनेंशियल राइज, ये जो बार चार्ट है दैट इज द राइज इन दैट ईपीएस. एंड इस एक्सपोनेंशियल राइज ऑफ ईपीएस के साथ क्या हुआ ना, इनका पी रेशियो हैज ऑल्सो फॉलन अ लॉट. एक पॉइंट में शैली का पी रेशियो अराउंड 182 विच वॉज ड्यूरिंग February 27, विच इज एब्सोल्युटली मैसिव. एंड उस पॉइंट से पी रेशियो हैज नाउ फॉलन टू अराउंड 60. इसमें दो कारण से हुआ है, एक तो ईपीएस बढ़ गया, दूसरा प्राइस में भी देयर वाज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग करेक्शन अराउंड 20-25% आफ्टर द Q3 रिजल्ट्स, बिकॉज एज आई एक्सप्लेन मार्जिन 5% गिर गया था. एंड उनका मेन डिवीजन जो था कंज्यूमर डिवीजन, उसमें अराउंड 13% वाई डी ग्रोथ हुआ था. बट द कंपनी हैज गिवन अ लॉट ऑफ, जो मैंने बोला आप लोगों को, जस्टिफिकेशन बिहाइंड द सेम. एंड वी नीड टू नोटिस इन द Q4 रिजल्ट्स इफ द मार्जिन राइजेस. अगर वो हुआ तो आप देखोगे कि प्राइस भी बहुत जल्दी ऊपर बढ़ेगा. नेक्स्ट जो मुझे बोलना था अबाउट शैली इज दैट if whenever someone is analyzing a company, you need to see that over a period of last 5-7 years unka top line बढ़ना चाहिए on a gradual level. And if you can see from March 2018, 318 crore का annual revenue से now they are at on a trailing 12 month 900 crore annual revenue, which is a 3x growth, right? इनका operating profit भी of the company has grown from 54 crores in 2018 to 240 crores. That is almost like a 5x jump. तो इसका मतलब मुझे ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज भी मिला है. मेरा ऑपरेटिंग मार्जिन जो 28 में 17% था, दैट इज नाउ एट 27%, राइट? दैट इज नाउ एट 27%, विच शोज दैट मेरा मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन हो रहा है, और वो आगे कमेंट्री के हिसाब से थोड़ा और भी बढ़ सकता है, अराउंड 30%, राइट? इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट ज़्यादा नहीं है बिकॉज लेवरेज ज़्यादा नहीं है कंपनी में. देन ऑन अ कंपाउंडेड बेसिस लास्ट 3 years में सेल्स थोड़ा कम हुआ है, बट प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी हैज बीन अराउंड 26%. एंड नाउ बिकॉज देर एंटरिंग द जोन ऑफ GLP-1, तो आप लोग देख रहे हो कि लास्ट TTM में 30% के सेल्स बढ़ा है एंड प्रॉफिट हैज ग्रोन एक्सपोनेंशियली बाय 170%. नाउ बैलेंस शीट, जैसे मैंने बोला, रिजर्व्स एंड ऑल द कंपनी कीप्स ऑन ग्रोइंग एवरी ईयर. बोरोइंग्स भी कंपनी का स्टेबलाइज हो गया अराउंड 180-190 CR. कैपिटल वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस भी अच्छा खासा बढ़ रहा है, which means that they're investing in capacity expansion, plant, power, machinery, in सब में they are investing, which is good. Cash flow के बारे में I have said they generate positive operating cash flow. उनका पैसा ज़्यादा आपका इन्वेंट्री और रिसीवेबल्स में नहीं अटका हुआ है, थोड़ा बहुत तो रहेगा. दैट इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ अ ग्रोइंग कंपनी, बट इट्स नथिंग मेजर. इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट को कैश फ्लो में कन्वर्ट करना, दे कन्वर्ट ऑलमोस्ट लाइक लास्ट 2 years 3 years से देखोगे तो ऑलमोस्ट 187 ऑलमोस्ट अराउंड 80% ऑफ देयर ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट आराम से दे आर कन्वर्टिंग इनटू कैश, विच मीन्स दैट दे आर अ गुड कैश जनरेटिंग बिजनेस ऑल्सो. इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट और थोड़ा डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. डेटर डेज भी हिस्टोरिकल रेंजेस में ही है, कैश कन्वर्शन साइकिल थोड़ा बड़ा है, रोसी अराउंड 17%, विच इज लाइक एज आई मेंशन्ड इज लाइक ऑन एन एवरेज लेवल डिसेंट. मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ जो आप लोगों को देखना है, बिकॉज दिस इज लाइक एन इंडिकेटर जो आप लोगों को देखना है कि FIIs और DIIs क्या कर रहे हैं इस पर्टिकुलर कंपनी में. और आप लोग देखोगे कि फ्रॉम March 2025 onward FIIs have increased their stake from 7.3% to 16%, which means that they are heavily investing in the company. And DIIs have also increased from 13.7% to they've slightly reduced it. That reduction has actually occurred just in the last quarter. Other than that, they were at 13.6%. But वो reduction I think FIIs have absorbed. And FIIs में ना बहुत सारे अच्छे खासे FIIs have in small cap world fund has invested almost 7% of their entire fund value in Shaily, which is absolutely huge. एंड दे रिसेंटली आप देखोगे कि बैंक ऑफ अमेरिका भी सिक्योरिटीज भी इसमें घुसा है. एंड लॉट ऑफ these are like the top FIIs of the world. So this gives us an understanding कि इन लोगों को लग रहा है कि प्रॉक्सी इन्वेस्टिंग में ना Shaily becomes a very important player. प्रॉक्सी इन्वेस्टिंग का मतलब you guys know that you don't directly play the trend, but you play at is a supplier or indirect player of the trend. और GLP-1 का प्रॉक्सी प्लेयर बन जाता है Shaily, because Shaily इसके लिए इंजेक्टेबल पेन्स बना रहा है, राइट? DIIs में भी अगर आप लोग देखोगे तो DIIs में HDFC स्मॉल कैप फंड, यू हैव रिसेंटली मोतीलाल ओसवाल का स्पेशल अपॉर्चुनिटी फंड ऑलमोस्ट 5% पैसा डाला है. So it shows that Shaily is almost like 26-27% of the entire outstanding shares are operated by FIAs and DIAs, which is always a good sign. uh, yeah, that was more around Shaily का overview. It's a very decent company जो बहुत important एक sector में entry करने वाला है, and future में also semiconductors और consumer electronics में enter करने वाला है, which means पहले जो उनका एक segment grow कर रहा था, now they're diversified into 3 very fast growing segments, which makes the company very unique. एक बार हम लोग उनका चॉक चार्ट में देख लेते हैं, जो जैसे मैंने आप लोगों को बोला था, सी आफ्टर द Q3 अर्निंग्स रिजल्ट कंपनी थोड़ा नीचे आया था, बट ये रिसेंटली ये मार्च महीने में वंस द मार्केट स्टार्टेड क्लाइंबिंग अ लिटिल, उससे थोड़ा पहले शैली में बहुत ज़्यादा हाई वॉल्यूम से बाइंग हुई थी, राइट? इफ यू गाइस फोकस ओवर हियर, दिस अमाउंट ऑफ वॉल्यूम कैनॉट बी क्रिएटेड बाय रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स, ठीक है? इसको करने के लिए आप लोगों को FII बाइंडिंग करना पड़ना है, एंड मुझे लग रहा है कि at this point of time, if you're right, see on March 12 small cap world fund buys additional 2% stake, तो ये पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे उन लोगों ने स्टॉक में खरीदारी की होगी, एंड पोस्ट दैट अगेन द स्टॉक हैज काइंड ऑफ फॉलन डाउन, राइट? अ लिटिल, इट्स करेक्टेड बाय अराउंड, आप अगर आप देखोगे तो दिस करेक्शन वुड बी अराउंड 20-25%, जैसे मैंने बोला था। बट ये चीज़ याद रखना, जब ये जो 20% से ज़्यादा प्राइस हाइक हुआ था इधर बिकॉज ऑफ द FII बाइंग, ये पर्टिकुलर इसके नीचे स्टॉक प्राइस जनरली नहीं जाएगा, बिकॉज देन द FII वुड हैव टू मेक लॉस, राइट? सो दिस हैपेंस दैट एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम ये अच्छा एक सपोर्ट जोन बन जाता है फॉर शैली इंजीनियरिंग, राइट? एंड द स्टॉक कुड होवर अबाउट इन दिस रेंज तब तक उनका पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट नहीं आया है, ठीक है? ऑल्सो ये जो मार्क लाइन है आप देख रहे हो, ब्लू लाइन, दिस इज द 200-day मूविंग एवरेज, तो शैली इज क्लोज टू इट्स 200-day मूविंग एवरेज। रिजल्ट अच्छा आया, मार्केट में पॉजिटिव सेंटीमेंट बढ़ रहा है, तो आप फिर से बाइंग देख सकते हो, एंड द स्टॉक विल अगेन मूव अपवर्ड्स, एंड मे बी इफ द रिजल्ट्स आर गुड, उनका मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन हो गया, एंड द इन Q4 रिजल्ट्स में कंपनी सेज दे हैव ऑनबोर्डेड न्यू क्लाइंट्स, नया लोगोज आ गया, तो स्टॉक कैन अगेन रिबाउंड इट्स जर्नी टू न्यू ऑल टाइम हाइज। This was more around Shaily's technical, nothing much to observe. Might be a good buying opportunity, but that is on your call. In terms of valuations थोड़ा बात कर लेते हैं। Shaily's valuation is around 60p, ठीक है? But you have to keep in mind that Shaily is a company जो on a blended level आपका revenue आराम से 25 to 30% आप पकड़ के चलो on that level, on a base case grow कर सकता है, right? Because their फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग सेगमेंट इज इवेंचुअली बिकमिंग हेल्थ केयर, जहाँ पे वो लोग 35-40% से रेवेन्यू ग्रो कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो ब्लेंडेड में अगर मैं वो पकड़ के चलूँ तो द कंपनी राइट नाउ इज अराउंड 2x पेग, राइट? 2 times पेग, थोड़ा एक्सपेंसिव है, बट मार्केट इसको थोड़ा प्रीमियम क्यों दे रहा है? बिकॉज दे आर एंटरिंग ऑल ऑफ दिस गुड सेगमेंट्स इन द फ्यूचर, राइट? सो थोड़ा प्रीमियम वैल्यूएशन उनको जस्टिफाइबली मिल रहा है, एंड ओवर टाइम इफ द कंपनी इज अ फास्ट ग्रोइंग स्टॉक ना, तो ये जो एक्सेस प्रीमियम उसको मिल रहा है, दैट विल इवेंचुअली गेट एडजस्टेड इन द स्टॉक प्राइस। तो इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यूएशन Shaily इज एट अ 2x पेग, और इन टर्म्स ऑफ अगर हम लोग उसका वैल्यूएशन ऑन अ 5-year बेसिस देखें, we can't do justification because 5 years पहले GLP-1 का ट्रेंड था ही नहीं। So if you do it on a 3-year basis also, you will see that before they entered the GLP-1 segment by a huge margin, उस टाइम के वैल्यूएशन के भी नीचे Shaily ट्रेड कर रहा है, राइट? एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम the median PE was around 88, now it's at 60, so this might be a good chance for long term investors, so 3-5-10 साल का वैल्यू लेके Shaily में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, they might have a good understanding and they might actually they can maybe invest in this particular stock for वैल्यू क्रिएशन, ठीक है? तो वैल्यूएशन मेरे को ठीक ठाक लगा, इट्स नॉट वेरी चीप ऑल्सो, इट्स नॉट वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, मेरे को ऑन अ बॉर्डर लाइन लगा। तो दिस वॉज मोर अराउंड Shaily's वैल्यूएशन, राइट? और एक चीज़ जो वन ऑफ द सब्सक्राइबर्स हैड सेड वाज अराउंड बुल बेयर एंड बेस केस बनाने के लिए, सो बुल केस वुड आइडियली बी Shaily growing their revenues at around 40-45%, मतलब आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग around a 10-15% more faster growth rate than the management guidance. उसके वजह से what could happen that the PEG ratio would come at around 1.5x, which would mean that Shaily को अपसाइड मार्जिन थोड़ा ज़्यादा मिल रहा है, राइट? थोड़ा अपसाइड मार्जिन ज़्यादा मिलने के वजह से उनका ऑल्सो आई एम टेकिंग इन द बुल केस, उनका जो मार्जिन एक्सपेंशन है, उनका मार्जिन 31.2% से अराउंड 32-33% तक बढ़ रहा है ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ 1 year। तो उसके हिसाब से Shaily would actually have a higher target price, एंड बेयर केस में इफ द कंपनी इज नॉट एबल टू मीट एंड उनका जो ऑर्डर्स है वो मीट नहीं होता, देन शैली माइट एक्चुअली बी ट्रेडिंग एट द प्रीमियम ईयर. अगर सिर्फ 20-25% से ग्रोथ हुआ, दे आर नॉट एबल टू ऑनबोर्ड न्यू इनोवेशन क्लाइंट्स, न्यू क्लाइंट्स इन ऑल ऑफ द सेक्टर्स, तो फिर उस केस में थोड़ा डिमार्केशन हो सकता है. पर दैट इज मोर और लेस अबाउट शैली इंजीनियरिंग. So that was all that we had regarding Shaily engineering in today's video. I hope you guys understood the topic well. ठीक है, शैली काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बन जाता है बिकॉज ये हेल्थ केयर में एक प्रॉक्सी प्लेयर बन जाता है फॉर यू. एंड आप लोगों को अगर देखे हो, जब जब प्रॉक्सी इन्वेस्टिंग इज ऑफन वन ऑफ द बेस्ट वेज टू मेक मनी इन द मार्केट, बिकॉज जो एंड प्लेयर होता है ना, वी डोंट नो कि एली लिली या नोवो नॉर्डिस्क या एमक्योर या सैनोफी किसका पर्टिकुलर जीएलपी टर्न सबसे ज्यादा बिकेगा, राइट? वो उनका ऊपर है, राइट? देयर पर्टिकुलर मार्केटिंग एंड एवरीथिंग. बट हमें ये मालूम है कि जब भी कोई भी मेडिकल ये जो जीएलपी 1 यूज करेगा, अगर उसमें मेजोरिटी शेयर बिकॉज शैली का है इन टर्म्स ऑफ इंजेक्टर्स, शैली विल बेनिफिट फ्रॉम दिस ट्रेंड. तो प्रॉक्सी इन्वेस्टिंग का मतलब ही ये होता है कि आप देखते हो कि सेकेंड ऑर्डर बेनिफिशियरीज कौन है एक पर्टिकुलर ट्रेंड का, और शैली इज नॉट ओनली अ प्रॉक्सी बेनिफिशियरी ऑफ हेल्थ केयर गाइज. हम लोगों ने पढ़ा कि इट इज ऑल्सो प्रॉक्सी बेनिफिशियरी ऑफ द सेमीकंडक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. तो ये दोनों बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्टर्स है फॉर द फ्यूचर. एंड शैली माइट बी अ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी जो इन दोनों के वजह से बहुत वैल्यू क्रिएट करेगा. सो hope you guys like the video. Guys, it takes a lot of mehnat, right, to make such videos, analyze, make ppts, share screen and explain these topics to you. So if you guys like the video, please do like and subscribe to the channel, hype the video and share it with all your equity analysts out there in the your friends जो company business analysts को पढ़ने को they have interest in the stock market and want to study. And that's all for today. We'll be back with another deep dive series next Sunday. So and thank you. Bye.